Hello, my name's Teresa Hammett, and I'm here today with a wonderful woman, friend and mentor, Alice Rhodes Adler. She's had such a varied and interesting life, and she means so much to so many people that I asked her if she would sit down with me today for a short interview, focusing on one area of her rich life, and that is wool rug braiding. I was one of Alice's students back in 2017 when she was teaching wool rug braiding through an organization named Homestead Atlanta. This organization was started by Kimberly Coburn here in Atlanta to teach the old-fashioned crafts to those throughout the metro Atlanta area. Just a little bit of an introduction to wool rug braiding. Wool rug braiding began as an American tradition over 200 years ago, beginning in parts of New England where the first woolen fabric mills were being established. Women who wanted beautiful rugs in their homes, but they couldn't afford the beautiful, expensive rugs that were being milled at the time, used offcuts from the mills and their own worn woolen clothing to create their own braided rugs. These creative and resourceful women used available resources and created warm floor coverings for their homes in the winter, but it also added decorative elements to their homes. So wool rug braiding then moved west along with the covered wagons and remained popular until the early 1900s, when war and women's roles in the workplace took precedence. Following the World Wars, mass production of commodities and commercialization became the name of the game, and by the 1960s, handmade braided wool rugs were no longer considered fashionable. Over these last few decades, knowledge of how to make these woolen rugs was being lost as those teachers and mentors were passing away. Fortunately for all of us, handmade items such as knitting, quilting, crocheting, blacksmithing, woodworking have all had a resurgence in the last several years, and that would include wool rug braiding. So without further ado, let's meet Alice and learn about her experience with wool rug braiding. So how did you get interested in wool rug braiding?
Well, actually, as a kid, my family didn't braid wool rugs, so I wasn't really exposed to them until after I was married.
Oh.
And one of my neighbors bought a rug, and back then he paid $200 for a 9x12 rug. And it was beautifully made. I remember it had beautiful pinks and greens and blues and just, such a rainbow of colors. And I loved the rug, and I thought it was fabulous. And the only similar exposure that I had, my family had some rugs that were probably crocheted out of cotton. I don't think they were braided. I think they were crocheted. And they were really, truly a throw rug. You had to be very careful how you stepped on them, or they would slide out from under your feet. And one of the funniest things that happened, my sister, who was a few years older, said one day, "I think I could pull that rug out from under you." And I said, "Oh, I don't think you could," because I thought I was standing on it. I was probably 5 years old. And she yanked the rug out from under me. Of course, I fell. And I howled, and she got really punished for it.
And did someone in your family make these crocheted rugs?
I think somebody back in the family had made them, but I don't know who.
Okay.
They were already there by the time I was born. I was the 11th child in my family. All girls except the 10th one was a boy.
Oh, my goodness.
And my father thought he could have another son, but unfortunately, here I am. Big disappointment. And I mean, as a kid, we didn't have a lot of toys, and we improvised a lot and learned a lot that way. I mean, I would make furniture out of cardboard boxes and for my doll houses and things like that. So then when I saw this beautiful rug that my neighbor had bought, I thought $200 was a lot of money for a rug back then.
About what year was this?
This would have been in the early 1960s.
Okay.
And I'm sure he found it from some woman out in the country that had made it. And I thought, oh, maybe I could learn to do that. And I knew that my sister's mother-in-law, who had 12 children, had made a 9-by-12 rug for each of her children.
Each of her children?
Right. So I asked her if she would help me learn. And we were getting ready to move from Pennsylvania to Ohio, so I had to squeeze that in quick before I left. And I spent 1 or 2 days, I can't remember, it was more than a day, with her. And she taught me the basics of the braiding and a little bit about the lacing, just enough to get it started. But that was the only instruction I had. So I winged it on my own for a while, and I kept working at it. And I got the rug to a certain, like maybe a 3-by-5 or so, and I would keep the end tucked under the sofa and pull it out and keep working on it.
So you were actually using it as a rug?
I started to use it as a rug when it got to be about 3-by-5 feet. But and we had an early American sofa, so I could tuck it under the skirt and nobody knew that it was there. And so I would pull it out and keep working on it when I had time. But unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of time because I still was teaching and had children and was very, very busy and was a scout leader and you name it. So I had to keep working at it, and finally I figured out the system on my own. And at some point my daughter found a book that was helpful too, but I think that wasn't until after I moved here to Atlanta.
So were you always crafty and kind of problem solving with?
Oh yes, I was building puppets and props and stages and the whole thing. Oh, the world of puppetry is a magical place. It was like I'd been a duck out of water all my life till I found them. I started taking classes every summer to learn the art while I was still teaching and decided it would make a wonderful retirement career, which it did. I had a great time doing it.
So your first career was teaching
right.
and running a school.
Right. I founded a school in Columbus, Ohio, which is still going to this day. I did it at a church. And after I left, the new minister there, when I went back, said that they discovered after I left that it was the best outreach program that the church had.
I'll bet. So after a career of teaching and doing administration in a school that you started, you retired and then took up, in a serious way, your puppetry arts.
Well, I had enough of that, but I wanted to get into puppetry full time. While I was still teaching, I started doing puppet shows on the side.
Oh, you were?
And birthday parties and libraries and things like that, just to get the experience. There's no substitute for the actual performance experience. And I was doing a 2-person show. My daughter Lisa worked with me. And but when I moved to Atlanta, I just didn't have anybody else. I tried somebody, a couple of people, and it just wasn't working. So I decided I'll learn to do a 1-person show. And I'll do this myself and I'll get all the money. You have to really be able to improvise a lot though, and use certain props and techniques that allow you to do it.
You're doing multiple puppets at the same time?
I did Peter Rabbit, and I would have the babies in a cradle that rocked on stage, and I could have Peter on one hand and his mother on the other, and those 3 babies on stage.
So did you design the puppets yourself?
Oh yes.
So you designed the puppets, you designed the show, and then you performed the show.
Right. It's a heck of a lot more work than anybody would ever believe, but I was stubborn enough to to want to do it. The only puppets worth having are the ones that a puppeteer builds, that knows how to build, because what's inside is important in order to be able to do good manipulation and get the facial expressions that you want. Well, up there's that top picture, the picture of Peter Rabbit and his mother and the babies. But I did that. I did Little Red Riding Hood, The Lion and the Mouse, The Red Hen and the Grain of Wheat. And that one I wrote all in rhyme.
Wow.
And that was a fun show to do. Around Atlanta, I did tons of birthday parties. And once I got started, I didn't even need to keep advertising. Word of mouth just did it. And at that time, there weren't that many puppeteers in the area doing shows. As time went on, there was, more competition. But I always kind of set the standard for getting the price up to where it was a workable price. And people would sometimes say, well, so-and-so is cheaper. And I'd say, well, I'm good. And they would hire me. And this is digressing from the rugs. When Peter would jump into the watering can, water would squirt out. And so this one birthday party show, they had a sofa out in front that some of the adults were sitting on and the children on the floor in front. And one of the fathers had started to doze off on the sofa, and the water hit him smack in the face. Well, I booked more shows from that. The adults all loved it, and even the man who was a good sport about it. But kids love anything that flies out of a stage, and I would, use like confetti in a funnel that you could just blow in the end of the tube and blow confetti out, or little cornstarch to give it a little puff of powder. It was a lot of fun figuring all these things out.
So you are a lifelong problem solver.
I guess you could say that.
A creative soul.
Yeah. And when I was braiding, I was using old clothes from the family. And we had rented the house in Pennsylvania for a year when we first moved to Columbus. And when those people left and we went back to check the house out, they had left a huge box of old clothes in the attic.
Oh my goodness.
So those clothes went into to my rugs. Yeah, it was just one of those fortunate finds. But I would, pick up some things from thrift stores. And
can you talk a little bit about how you choose color and why you use the colors you use? I guess, are you limited by the clothing that you can find? And where do you find your fabrics?
To some extent, you are limited by the colors that you find. Going to the thrift store is a treasure hunt, and you hope that you'll find the colors that you need. And skirts and slacks are among the better fabrics. To get the bright colors, you have to go for women's jackets. And if you're lucky, you'll find a 2 or 3 piece suit with a skirt, slacks, and a jacket. But you don't find those too often, but when you do, you're lucky.
I guess especially here in the South, because we don't wear a lot of wool clothing.
But people who move here and then get rid of their wool clothes, I think that's probably been a source.
Yeah.
And people keep moving to Atlanta.
That's true.
When I was making the wool rug for my daughter's room, I made a huge discovery. She had a purple coat that was a little bit heavy. The way that I had learned to braid was to use the sliding braiders. And you would slide those along to help turn the edges in. But it makes a much softer braid than what I do now. So this wool coat was actually a great learning experience for me because it was heavier and I was having trouble to get the edges to turn in. And so I got the idea to try using a steam iron on it. And that's when I began doing this, turning the edges in with a steam iron and rolling in the bundles. And forget the braiders. I don't use the sliding braiders anymore. I do use one of the braiders when I'm pressing to help turn the edges in quickly. But the steam iron is perfect for preparing your fabric. And this gives you an idea. So, I mean, some garments you're going to get a big roll, some you'll get, you know, a little smaller. But and when you're braiding a rug, if you have smaller rolls, you might want to start your center with the smaller colors, the smaller rolls, so that you, when you get to the outer edge, you want the biggest rolls you have to go around the outer edge. And sometimes you get lucky, like this little gray. I happened to find two that were so similar that I could use to help me reach around now that the rug's getting bigger. This rug is almost finished. When I get through with this second row of this, I'll finish it off. But this makes a nice firm braid by pressing it with a steam iron. And as far as I know, I'm the only one that ever came
Yeah, I was
up
going
with
to
it.
ask you, so that's not how you learned. You learned with the braiders.
I learned to do it with those sliding
and then you
braiders.
figured out from experience that it worked better to steam iron.
Well, that wool rug, or that wool coat convinced me that the heavier fabrics, there was no way that I could get those edges to turn in without doing something. And it was such a beautiful coat, I wanted to use it. Yeah. And I wanted the purple, and purple was hard to find back then.
Yeah.
It's sometimes gotten a little easier. Actually, to get this purple, I dyed this.
You dyed it yourself?
Yes.
Oh, what did you start with?
It was actually a wool. It was actually a blanket that was very, very pale lavender and white. Oh. And so I wanted a deeper purple.
So what's your favorite part about wool rug braiding? You're still doing it all these years later. What is it, 60, 70, 80, 90? That's 50 years almost.
Well, it was 1963 when I moved to Columbus. When I, took the class right before I moved. So, but I wasn't really working on it that much when I still lived in Columbus. After I moved to Atlanta, I had a little time, but not a lot, because I was still building puppet shows and performing puppet shows and touring them. And after I was fully retired from the puppetry then, I made this big rug on the floor. And when Kimberly Coburn saw that, she was, convinced that she wanted me to teach. My favorite part is actually putting the colors together. And if I'm going to be adding colors, I'll bring out some that I think I might use and just live with them while I'm braiding until I decide what I want to use next. You kind of think ahead, you'll do certain things. When you get to it, it doesn't always work. So you just have to sort of live with the colors, and when you get to where you want to add another color, I just think this will work. But a few times I've tried it and taken it off and switched to something else if
you mean
I didn't
you've
like
actually
it.
braided and...
I've actually braided, started, a new row, and now I don't like it. And, take it off and switch to something else. But that's just me. Other people might not need to do that. But I like, working for the contrast of the colors too, and having the colors flow in a good way. This one is actually a little more varied than some of the rugs I've done in the past. For example, the center part, I used the pink and the purple together, where I used to just really use one color at a time. But one of my favorite things to do is to make the bedside runners, like the runner that's over there. You can do things, like chest toppers, or I have one under my sewing machine. One of my students, Jason Steidel, made the little pad under the lamp. He's made some beautiful things, which I hope you'll include in the book.
So you get your clothing from the thrift store, you would then wash it, launder it, dry it, and then take it apart. And you're left with varying sizes and shapes of wool fabric. And then, as Alice has taught me, you iron the fabric so it's all nice and smooth, and then you start either ripping it or cutting it into strips. And the strips are going to vary by length because you've got all different weird sizes depending on the fabric you started with. So you sew together all the varying sizes of the strips you have. You sew these together, open the seam, iron it flat, and then Alice trims each of the edges so that there's not a lot of bulk. And once all that's sewed together, you end up with one long strip. Of course, this will be sewed together and you will no longer have the pins. And then you fold each edge in towards the middle. And this is where Alice slides a braider across here to help her keep this folded in while she's steam pressing it with the iron.
You want to leave a slight gap in the center. You don't want the edges.
Let me show you on the green one.
You don't want the edges
It'll show it better than the black.
to touch.
So there's a slight space between going down the middle. And then once you've ironed it all, you've got this long piece of one long piece of fabric. You can see here where it was pieced together, sewn together there, sewn together here. But it makes this one long braid, one long piece of fabric that then you can braid. And you can see there with Alice, she's using 3 rolls of fabric to braid. 2 are on the table, one's in her lap.
Living to 99, I've outlived a lot of my friends, my former friends. And so with the students that I had, I've made some wonderful new friends like you, Teresa, and Susan Wagner, and Jason, and they come every week and we braid together,
Yeah.
which is just wonderful. And
Well, we feel blessed to have met you. You've enriched our lives many times over.
Oh, thank you. But it's been so nice to have that ongoing friendship, and we share our lives each week, and we do a brown bag lunch. And it's just a fun time for all of us. I just enjoyed the people so much. People who do crafts are such creative, wonderful people.